Good morning.
Good morning.
How's your coffee? Hi. Hi.
Grandpa, but I've got something upstairs that he wrote himself.
That's very special.
This
That's
is
very special.
Maury Friedman. Today is Saturday, April 6, 2002. We were with Sylvia Friedman in Little Rock, Arkansas on the occasion of her granddaughter's wedding. First, will you tell me who you are and where you were born?
I'm Sylvia Friedman. I was born in Chicago, May 25th, 1914.
What are some of your memories from childhood?
Well,
A couple out.
I can't go back clearly to some of them. I grew up in a sort of an Orthodox home, but it wasn't a real ritualistic home. My father, of course, was a barber. My mother was a homemaker. And it was a fairly good, fine Jewish home.
What are some of the things you remember about your parents, particularly? That's Helen and Abe
Thanks for telling me.
for the video.
My mother was quiet, kind of laid back. My father was the dominant figure. And I think both Sam and I were raised under strict discipline. I mean, a spanking wasn't unheard of. And since I was such a rascal, I got a few. I can tell you a few. So that's about it. And basically, I was kind of a loner because I seemed to have a desire for doing something, but what it was, I didn't know. I wanted to go into nursing desperately, but I remember my father saying, I'm not going to put out $300 because the first time you carry a bedpan, that's going to be the end. So that took care of that. And then I got to work in a doctor's office. My school days were okay, but if it weren't for the fact that I was at that time studying piano, actually, well, look, I need to go back a little. When I was 6 years old, my mother enrolled me in a ballet school. I've got a picture of me in the frou-frou standing on the ballet slippers. And I don't know what decided not to continue with that. But when I was 9, my mother got me to take piano lessons. And actually, I was a natural. I studied real hard. My mother would be in the kitchen and she'd say, how many times did you play this piece? And I'd yell out 1. And she said, you got to do 4 more. So that was what we did. And as time went on, I progressed so rapidly that I was given to another teacher and went through several small concerts. But then I was given to the man who was well known in Chicago and would only accept pupils that showed promise. So I went and performed for him, and he took me on. And from then on, we studied very, very diligently. And I was in the process of preparing for a true concert. I was really that good. And then one time, he excused himself from the studio to go get something, and I sat there and kind of hummed a tune. And when he came back, he said, Sylvia, sing that to me. And I did. And he said, "Why didn't you tell me you had such a beautiful voice? I'm going to have you meet Madame de Vries." Now, Madame de Vries's husband was the music critic for the Chicago paper, and I went to study with her. In the meantime, the piano part began to take a back seat, and I studied voice very diligently, did some concerts, nothing of any great value. And then I remember Maury at that time was in dental school, and one holiday, probably New Year's Eve, one of his friends from dental school, I cannot remember how I met him. We were dating. He was from Connecticut, and he called and said, "Sylvia, I'm going home for the holidays, but I've got a friend who just broke up with somebody, and he needs a date for the holiday," which I learned later on was a lot of baloney. Anyway, Maury called me, and we arranged to meet. It was a blind date for both of us. We met at the lower level of the lobby at the information desk at the Palmer House. And it was love at first sight. I don't know about Maury, but I thought, oh God, isn't he wonderful? So when he took me home, because I didn't want to let go, I knew there was a party happening. So I said, "I've got a party to go to in a couple of weeks. Would you like to go with me?" He said, "Well, I'll have to let you know." So I knew that wasn't ever going to happen. And I wait. Every time the phone rang, I thought it was Maury, but it wasn't. Finally, about 3 days before the party, he called and said he was going to go with me. And from then on, we started dating. Maury was still in dental school. I lived on the west side, and he lived on the north side. My background was more or less conservative. His was strictly reform. So when the Rosh Hashanah holiday came around, I was invited to join them at his home for dinner. My father said, "Absolutely not. You don't drive on Yom Tov." But my mother, who thought it was going to destroy the relationship, she said, "Okay, let her go, let her go." So I went. It was very different from what I would have gone through at home. They had a complete dinner. They had a lot of friends for dinner. And my father-in-law's brother, Charlie, who turned out to be my favorite, because Maury's father and mother, his father especially, was very stoic. And I'm not so sure he thought I was the best choice for Maury. But as time went on, we grew very serious. And when Maury graduated from dental school, he had to take the state boards. So his parents sent him to Mexico for a month to wait for the results. And of course, there I was in Chicago, also waiting. We kept in touch as much as we could. And when he came back, he said, "I passed." So from then on, we began a series of making plans. We were engaged. I remember Maury taking me to a jeweler, and he said, he said to the jeweler, "Don't bring out the most expensive tray." But what he brought out was not anything I liked. So he brought out another tray, and I selected the ring, which of course I still have, and it's beautiful. And we were actually going together 3 years before we got married. Now let me tell you about my wedding. No one would have put up with that kind of wedding. After the wedding was over, and I remember his friends, the best man's name was Sigmund. He came over to ask me to dance. And Maury came over and said, listen, Sylvia, after this dance, we're leaving. We're leaving. See, I never told you this. And I was beside myself. And the only way to get out of the hotel was to go through the kitchen area. This was at the Congress on Michigan Avenue. We were married at the temple, of course. And I had told my cousin, who had had surgery 2 days before at Mount Sinai, she couldn't come to the wedding. I said, that was Rosalind. I said, Rosalind, I'm going to come to the hospital in my wedding gown, which I did. And then we went to spend the night at one of the hotels. And the next morning, when I had my little suitcase with all the bridal stuff, everything, people who were going to work kept coming into the elevator, pushing me back, until they hit the suitcase. It plopped open. Everything I had to go on the honeymoon was on God. And then, of course, I told you last night the kind of honeymoon I had. I can't go over that again.
Okay.
Next.
Say some things about your father or the way he was. Do you have anything else to say about him?
It's like I told you, he was a very dominant figure and was a man who took over family things to arrange and schedule. And I can recall years ago when the refugee, first of all, let me tell you this. After we were married a year and a half, I got pregnant. Maury and I got an apartment on the near north side in Chicago. It was whatever you call it, an efficiency apartment with a Pullman kitchen. And we were still, of course, being with our friends that Maury graduated. We kept with them all the years beyond the war that we were together. I remember their coming over to our apartment. There was no place to sit. We pulled down the inner bed and everybody sat on that. But we didn't know any better and it was fine. But then the war broke out and all the guys went in different directions. And Maury had opened up a practice in Chicago, downtown, and Lynn was born in 41, and when she was 18 months old, Maury and his friends enlisted. Some went to the Navy. Maury joined the Army. And we were sent to Abilene, Texas, and lived in some hell holes, really. In between transfers to different places, I would go home with Lynn and stay for a while until Maury could find a place. On one occasion, for 2 months, he couldn't find a place. Then he called me and said, I have met a wonderful couple, Leo and Sue Elson. Leo was a heart doctor, and they were living in a home in Abilene. And they said to Maury, tell Sylvia to come, we'll share the house. And so I packed up Lynn, and we went to Abilene, Texas. Maury and I slept on a sofa bed, and I got a crib for Lynn. And the arrangement was that Sue would do the cooking and I would clean the house. And that's how we lived. And then we were transferred to Tyler, Texas, and some other place, I don't know. Maury would go off to places where I would just stay. And then we were transferred to Little Rock at Camp Robinson. And we lived in an area where all of the Army personnel from New York, from Detroit, we were all in a little community all our own. And of course, when the war was over, people went back to their places where they lived. Maury wanted to go to Corpus Christi. I thought I ought to go home. But Maury said, don't you remember you hated the winters? And I said, yeah, that's right. So we decided to stay here. And then, of course, after Maury got out of the Army, he opened up a practice here.
Did you ever meet your grandparents, father's parents?
Yes, I knew them.
What were they like?
Very European. What can I tell you? I can see their faces right now, but I can't tell you. I can't remember their names.
Did your father talk about his parents at all?
Not that, because he didn't need to talk because we were together
Good.
for family gatherings. My grandmother on my mother's side had 8 children, my uncles and aunts, and families were something else that I can remember, you know.
Was your father religious at all?
He went to shul, let me put it that way. For the high holidays, he would put on a tallis, he'd kiss me, and he'd go to shul. For me, holidays were, I was out of school. I think maybe I fasted, I don't even remember. I remember I stopped to get a gumball out of a machine and I thought God was going to strike me dead.
Why did he come to, or what did you say about Russia and Poland and why he came to the United States?
What?
Your father.
What about?
He came to the United States, did he talk about that and what? Did he have anything to say about Russia and Poland?
It's all written down in that paper
Okay.
I just mentioned. I can't...
What do you think he was most proud of in his life?
Well, of course, I go back to Sam, my brother, who worked for a customer of my dad's. He owned a large ice company, and he got Sam a job. You may know this, working for the company during the summer. And Sam was on an ice truck, and the running board broke. He fell under the truck. His leg was lacerated, and he was in medical school at the time. And of course, he couldn't go. It was a touch and go. And somehow, my folks managed to get the money together to send him back to medical school. I would go to the school and pick up his books and bring them to him.
What do you think your dad's favorite things were to do?
I
you
have
have anything?
no idea. None whatsoever. I do know that this customer of his, see, I've got letters upstairs that would floor you about what they wrote about him. After he died, they sent it to me. To this day, one of his customers, from the day that he knew about Shane, because my father constantly talked about Shane, and he would send her gifts, and he would call, and he still does, but I think he's elderly now, so am I.
What do you think his biggest disappointment was in life?
He was not happy, in a sense, with some of the family. He would give them a hard time about what he thought they ought to do and what they weren't doing. At the time when the war ended, there were nephews that were in concentration camps. And somehow I recall getting a Morris, Lee's husband, Rosalind's father, and Sophie's husband, Sam, I can't remember who else, to get together, put together money for them to get the nephews into the United States, which they did. And that's how Gertie and Leon, see, Gertie was my father's sister. That's how she and Leon and Lee and Morris got together, they would teach them English, and of course, eventually, I guess they fell in love and married.
How many brothers and sisters did he have?
There was Gertie and Sam. There was a Mike I lost track of. So that's it. He had, let's see, Sam and Morris and Mike and Gertie, the sister.
How many brothers and sisters did Helen have?
Well, Helen had Justine and Lee. That's all I can think of.
Do you think your dad believed in God?
I think Dad and I, at least now in my life, kind of looked at it with iffy. I can't describe it. He was a very modern, very realistic kind of guy, but very well versed in his religion. He could have gotten up and spoken like a rabbi.
Then how many children did Helen and Abe have?
Well, there were a couple of miscarriages, which I'm
Okay.
not aware of, except in growing up. I sensed some of the stuff going on. There was just my brother and me.
There were twins. Were the twins
No.
someplace along the way?
Where? I don't know about twins.
I thought I had heard that she miscarried. She
Well,
had
there
twins,
were, I
possibly.
just told Frank,
Yeah.
there was miscarriages that as a child, it would drift to me,
Yeah.
but I never,
Okay.
and I'll tell you something. I'm not even sure about this. I think my mother had epilepsy. I think so.
Oh.
What kind of a relationship did the two of them have as far as a family life in comparison to
You with brothers
you?
and sisters?
Well, in the family or how did they get along and interact?
Frank, you are going back to a time when marriages were sort of taken for granted. I mean, what did I know? It was a pretty good life, as far as I know, and I don't know.
You were a kid.
Did you ever see your dad get angry? Or anything in
Yeah, he'd
particular?
get angry, but let me tell you, this I remember. Afterwards, he'd go up to her and hug her like to make amends. Yeah.
If he were alive today, what would he say to you and Sarah Gale, you think?
Well, he thought the world of me. I gotta say that. I gotta say that. He thought I was something special, for which I'm grateful, and I'm sure he loved and adored Sarah Gale.
Everybody. All
Yeah.
his grandchildren. He thought a lot of all
His life,
grandchildren
I want to tell you,
was family.
he was so distraught over Shane's handicap. It was unbelievable.
Did you ever see him express happiness at anything really?
No, he was not. See, I'm like my father. He was not. But,
What do you think gave him happiness besides his grandchildren?
well, his customers adored him. I mean, I've got letters you wouldn't believe. They would go to him even when they didn't need a haircut, just to sit and talk to him. Just to sit and talk. He was so intelligent. His philosophy about life was unbelievable.
What do you think what do you think he would think of the world today in the years since he passed
I don't
away? Do
know.
you think he would have been?
I don't know. I can't tell you that. You want to
What-
talk about my dad? I'll give you that letter.
Well, we'll look at that. What are some of the things? Did you do things as a family, the four of you? Did you go to amusement parks? Did you go out
No,
together?
nothing like
Huh.
that.
You go out
Whatever I did,
Take a trip.
with my
babysit?
parents.
Yeah.
Oh, in the summer, everyone in the family would go to the house of David in Benton, Michigan.
Benton Harbor.
Benton
I
Harbor.
remember that.
You do?
Yeah, they took
Yeah.
me once.
And I remember it was so damn hot. And on Friday night, they would go to a Jewish restaurant. You had to walk miles to eat all this food. You know, people ate like it was going out of style. But I still have pictures, but where, I don't know.
So family life, that you really didn't do a lot of family activities
No.
at that point.
No.
Except you went to was your social activity basically with other members of the family?
Yeah,
as
definitely.
opposed to friends?
When we got together at my grandmother's house, it was something else.
It was wonderful. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
I'll think about it later.
Ah,
Anything you think we should ask?
no, unless you want to say something about Grandma. We don't know too much about her.
She was very quiet,
Yeah.
very quiet. But she would come out with little quips that were funny,
Yeah.
you know, little somethings. And sometimes, like my friends, Ola will relate to me something about what my mother said. And of course, the one thing that really, really upset her, she couldn't read. And when she died, I went through her dresser drawer, and inside was a primer. A primer made me so sad, really. And I don't know if you know about this, but many, many years after she died, maybe this was in Canton, he became very close friends with a woman who had cancer, I think, and she died, and that made me sad. I've got a picture of him talking to her, but her face isn't in the picture.
It was Sally
Grubman?
Grubman, maybe. I don't know.
They had
I
a,
knew her. Somehow she was in one of the camps, maybe where one of these nephews
could be,
was,
could be.
and they met somehow.
Yeah.
There was some story.
There was a relationship,
Yeah, I
right.
know he liked her very much.
Yes.
But I don't remember
Yeah,
what
right.
the story was. Okay, well,
So,
Thank you.
Have
For
I
all
done
of us. Yeah.
have I done okay?
yes, you did one.
Charles and Maury, Dale, Lynn, Shane, and Sylvia, and two of the Friedman children. Elliot and Dan are the two children with Dale. Lynn and Shane.